We're here in some of the nastiest parts of the Arizona desert with 6 of the baddest full-size pickup truck off-road packages as part of our 2017 Monster Factory Off-Road Challenge. Our competitors are the Ford F-150 Raptor, the Nissan Titan Pro 4X, the Nissan Titan XD Pro 4X, the Mopar Ram Rebel, the Ram Power Wagon, and the Toyota Tundra Trd Pro. We've also assembled a crack team of judges to take these pickup trucks on some extreme 4x4 trails where we've done some dawn until dusk testing. How did each of our competitors perform on the rocks? Here's what we had to say. First up, the Raptor, which for the most part blew away our judges.
So the Raptor, it's kind of like what's not to like about the Raptor. I mean, if we're trying to find something to dislike about the Raptor, we're really just splitting hairs, right? I think if I had to pull something out though, that 10-speed automatic transmission is just, that's like next level stuff. I mean, what you can do on the hill here, decelerating, there's a gear for everything.
This might sound a little bit silly, is that there are so many things to like about it. Great ground clearance, big wheels and tires, a great powertrain, and a multi-terrain system that allows you to do an incredible number of different type of off-road terrains. And that's exactly what we did here today. Put it in rock crawl mode, which locked up the rear end and gave us an incredible crawl ratio that allowed us to crawl up and over steep rocks that a lot of us were thinking we couldn't even walk up.
I was actually worried that the Raptor would be out of its element, because when you think of a Raptor, you think of it running fast through a desert somewhere, but today we were crawling, it was very technical, it was very slow, and it still did really well. You have very good articulation with both the front and rear axles, and the engine, you're afraid that because it's a turbocharged engine, it's got all that horsepower and all that torque, it's not going to be able to apply it evenly, but it did. It was the truck I felt most confident in.
My favorite thing about the Raptor is that it's balanced. It'll go slow, it'll go fast, it'll ride comfortably without beating you up, and it's got plenty of power, brake to go with it.
Next up, the Titan, which our judges were a little mixed about.
The Nissan Titan Pro 4X with a gas engine had the bare minimum of what we would consider an off-road package. It had an electronic locking rear differential, which was nice, but really it was fairly unsubstantial. The approach angle for the front end was just all wrong too. Anytime you heard a crunch, bam, it was the Nissan.
You know, to be honest, I don't think that there's really much to like or dislike about the Nissan Titan. It was kind of okay at everything. Like, it wasn't quite as comfortable as some of the others, but it also wasn't quite as capable as some of the others. The one thing that did bother me was, again, the steering. It shares that with the Titan XD. It's too tight at low speed.
I like the Titan because it's a balanced package. It doesn't go too far into the off-road mode, it doesn't go too far into becoming a limo, and it's reasonably priced, second only to the Tundra in this group.
Now to the Titan XD, the only diesel in our competition.
What stood out most of the Nissan Titan XD is, of course, that diesel engine. You know, it could climb a hill practically without even touching the throttle.
The nice thing about the XD is that it does have a lot of low-end torque from that engine. So when you're pulling yourself up obstacles, or when you're crawling downhill, especially with it in low range with the gear set, it will pretty much do all the work for you. You don't need to do too much with the pedals.
I like the effortlessness with which it goes along. The off-idle torque with big diesel and a tight transmission makes child's play of little rocks. I like that the tow hooks are the point of approach, so they're easily replaceable instead of something expensive like a bumper. And I like that you can still use it as a truck. You can tow stuff and carry stuff with it.
What I liked about the Titan XD is, might sound odd, but it's out of its element here, obviously. This is a big, heavy truck on tight, rugged terrain. So that usually doesn't happen. People don't take their big, expensive, heavy trucks out on trails like this. But the fact that it was heavy, especially having all that weight from the Cummins diesel in the front of that vehicle, I think actually helped it navigate some of the steep hill climbs we had. What I didn't like about the XD is almost obvious by just looking at it. It's got a big nose, it's got a big front skid plate for a reason, and a lot of places where we needed a good approach angle, this vehicle struggled quite a bit. Now for the Rebel. Here's what we thought.
The only thing I don't really like about the Rebel is that it came with side steps, which seems counterintuitive here because you're lowering a truck that you've just gone to all this trouble to lift.
What I like most about the Rebel is the transmission, but I have kind of a love-hate relationship with this transmission. It's fantastic for low-range crawling because it's got a great first gear ratio, but when you're in drive, coming downhill in low range, and that transmission isn't being put in a specific gear, it just wants to run away.
The Ram Rebel has a lot of things going for it, but those sideboards continue to trip me up all day. You're just worried about them constantly. Like, are they going to scrape on this? Are they going to scrape on that? Because they drop down so far off the sides of the truck that they effectively lower your ground clearance, and they lower the amount of obstacles that you can climb over because you're afraid that you're going to bend them or break them off at some point. When you lift the air suspension all the way up, it makes it really uncomfortable. You don't get the same amount of travel, it feels like, with the shocks. So every time you go over a bump, you really feel the bump.
And now the Power Wagon, where none of our judges mentioned the fact that there was a factory winch. Maybe that's because nobody had to use it.
The Power Wagon is really comfortable to actually drive off-road, and the amount of things that you can do to change up the suspension for the conditions are really impressive. Having front and rear lockers and a sway bar disconnect are features that you'd more likely find on a Wrangler than on a big HD pickup. So to have them here is not only a surprise, it's really welcome on tight technical stuff.
What is not to love about this Power Wagon on tight, technical off-road trails? This is an amazing vehicle. You take off the table the locking differentials and the sway bar disconnect, but live axles, front and rear. And not only that, but on the front suspension, Ram has incorporated an AccuFlex lower control arm that allows that thing to twist and flex better than anything that we've had out here today. Probably the only thing I don't like about the Power Wagon is it reminds me how short I am. There's no side steps on this vehicle, so getting into it is a chore no matter where we're parked.
I like that it's an HD truck and it feels indestructible, but it's got soft suspension and articulation, which makes it ride just plush along the slow speed stuff. I don't dislike the Hemi, but you put a big Hemi in a big truck, fuel mileage is going to suffer. I'd be very happy to haul the Cummins Ison combo out of an XD and stick it in here.
The Power Wagon, when you're looking at the specs and the features, it's just kind of an all-around badass truck. I mean, it has an electronic disconnecting sway bar, and that today out on the trail proved extremely useful. With it connected, the truck is stiff and rigid, but as soon as you hit the button to disconnect that, everything's kind of free and it feels connected to the trail. Like every rock is being hit by the tire, everything's just in perfect contact, and it gives you a lot more confidence. I wasn't that sure that the feature would make that much of a difference, but out here it absolutely did.
And now for Tundra's most rugged off-road package. Here's what we think.
The Trd Pro was the one truck that struggled today, and it clearly struggled. It was fighting traction issues. A lot of that was because of the tire choice. It has a very street-oriented tire. If you go out and buy this truck, the first thing you need to do is put a real tire on it. But it also doesn't have a locking rear differential. It just has a regular limited slip, and that also gave it trouble out here today.
It's probably the least technologically advanced. It doesn't have the same amount of four-wheel drive technology that the others did. That being said, it did pretty much everything that everything else did, and it was on a less aggressive tire setup too.
What I like about the Tundra is the simplicity. There's not a lot of buttons you have to press. There's no modes to select. The shifter's easy. You stick it in drive, plant your foot, listen to the nice exhaust pipe and take off.
I think what I like least about the Tundra Trd Pro package is that it needs to be updated. Tundra is a nice pickup truck all by itself, but when you're sitting in that interior all day long, especially when you're getting in and out of a Power Wagon or the new Nissans, that interior is really old. It needs to be updated quickly. To see which pickup truck was the fastest, click here. To see more of our video content, click here.